Hi there, this is David and welcome to the Top 10 Best JRPG PlayStation 3 Hidden Gems. After the success of the PlayStation 2, Sony entered the HD market, and JRPGs kinda started to fall to the wayside, but they were still out there if you knew where to look, and I am here to help. I'm actually going to be ranking these games based upon their relative obscurity. More well-known titles will be towards the top of the list, and then as we continue, we're going to get into the real unknowns. So, let's get started looking back through the library of this golden age console. Number 10, Valkyria Chronicles. Valkyria Chronicles is an RPG that takes place in an alternate timeline from our own during World War II. The story is a small slice-of-life piece of a much larger war going on involving all of Europa. In response to the invasion and destruction of their hometown, Welkin and Alicia join the militia of Gallia and set off to kick some ass. The graphics are hand-drawn beautiful watercolors, and the dialogue is extremely well written. While I do like strategy RPGs, real-time strategy isn't exactly my favorite, but I had a blast with this one, even if it can be a bit on the hard side. You're going to need to level, strategize, and set up your classes with some precision, and if you don't want to die to a sniper bullet between your eyes. The game was so great that it actually spawned a full-fledged series consisting of 4 games, so check out where it all began. Number 9, Star Ocean: The Last Hope. Star Ocean always seems to be right on the cusp of greatness, but then they shoot themselves in the foot. The first game wasn't even released here, and the second was great, but then it kind of fell apart at the end when you had to go through the fields, and then the third was all that I ever wanted until you got to that shitty twist at the end. And then the fifth looked to be the PS4's answer to an early RPG, only for it to actually be a budget dumpster fire. This, the fourth game, falls into this trap too. The story, combat, dungeon designs, and environments are nice, but the characters, especially the women, are some of the most annoyingly frustrating, stupid characters to ever exist. But other than that, you're going to find a solid game. Being a prequel to the franchise works well in its favor. It's nice to see why humanity had to leave Earth in the first place. Number 8, Nier. Many people nowadays might not think of Nier as a hidden gem, because it's entered the mainstream now, but back on the PS3, JRPG fans like me just thought of this as another crappy Dragon Guard clone. That is, until we played it. At its heart, it's an action RPG with smatterings of other genres in there as well, such as shooting, overhead and side-scrolling action too. You play as a hideously ugly delivery man who's trying to find the cure for his diseased daughter. If you just focus on the amazing story and characters and don't get too bogged down with the other extraneous junk, you're going to have a great time. The first playthrough only is going to take you about 10 hours. Then you can shoot for the other endings, which should only take about 2 or 3 hours to run through. All in all, it is a great game and it has been remade for some modern systems. Number 7, Tales of Grace's F. This game is kind of an outlier in the Tales series, and back in the day it definitely got overlooked in favor of Abyss on the PS2, Vesperia on the Xbox 360, or the 4 other Tales games released on the PS3 later on. But this is a sweet little story. Originally released for the Wii, then upgraded and ported over to the PS3 for an American release, the story follows Asbel as he grows from a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed child to an equally optimistic adult who steamrolls everything in his path with the power of friendship. Utilizing a title system for gaining stats is a new and super involved system, even for Tales. Different titles are literally swinging from the rafters here, so you're going to have hundreds to use to customize your characters in thousands of different ways. The depth of this system is just astronomical. Number 6, Rune Factory: Tides of Destiny. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, I am not the biggest fan of Harvest Moon type games. In fact, I did call them the most boring RPGs ever made, but I digress. Rune Factory takes that Harvest Moon formula and then adds quite a bit of quality of life improvements, as well as a robust combat system. The premise is pretty interesting. You have dual protagonists, but not quite. Let me explain. Our intrepid duo, Aiden and Sonya, actually share the same body, and they've been whisked away to an alternate version of their home island. So it's up to them to figure out what the hell is going on, and then, to get back home. This is actually a pretty neat concept for a full-fledged RPG, but here it's just kind of lost, because instead of exploring more of that story in depth, you're instead focused on crafting, farming, exploring, and busy work, just like in a real Harvest Moon. Number 5. Eternal Sonata. For those unaware, I majored in history in college, and I got my degree in social science education, become a high school history teacher, and really, I think that's why this game holds a special place in my heart. I would love more JRPGs to be like this, ones based upon history. The plot's unique. The famous composer Frédéric Chopin is on his deathbed, and he dreams up a fantastical story where he is actually the main player. The battle system is similarly unique. Each character is free to move about the screen for a limited amount of time, attacking or pulling off special moves, so in that sense it's kind of turn-based. But there are light and dark areas of each battlefield as well, and standing in them will allow you to access different move sets. It's pretty sweet and the graphics are gorgeous, and it's always nice to learn something while you play a game too. Number 4. 3D Dot Game Heroes. It seems that as I get older, I veer further and further away from action-oriented games. I just don't have the reflexes or the patience that I used to. But this unique gem caught my eye. Zelda isn't really my cup of tea anymore. Hyrule seems to have changed to a largely empty world more focused on puzzle solving than actual gameplay, but that is not the case here. 3D Dot Game Heroes takes the best of the older 2D Zeldas and adds in some self-referential humor, neat tools, and fourth wall breaks to give you a really unique experience. Fans of the newer and older games will feel right at home here also, with the familiar tools for dungeon exploration, from boomerangs to bombs to hookshots, along with the appropriate puzzles. Old School Challenge is the name of the game here, so if you are up for a classic jaunt on modern hardware, give this game a shot. Number 3. Trinity, Souls of Zilol. This may very well have been my first experience with a Mushu Dynasty Warriors type game, but I had a blast with it. The story isn't really anything to write home about, it's essentially your basic revenge tale, but you need to do quests to get stronger before you can exact it, and therein lies the meat of the game, quests and combat. You're going to be running through gorgeous fairy tale-like areas, slaughtering everything in your path, with an infinitely customizable combat system. Once you beat enough quests, you move on to the next chapter of the game. The only faults that I could really find are the menu-based towns and the point-and-click world map. Think Final Fantasy Tactics in that regard. None of the dungeons are ever the same twice, and the magical field effects really bring new life to what can easily become a stale combat system. Number 2. Folklore. This was one of the first PS3 RPG titles, and as such, it's a little bit obscure, but it's still a really good game. The Irish theme is centered around two protagonists, Keats, a reporter, and Ellen, a young girl, and they're both pulled into the Netherworld, which is a world inhabited by folks and fairies, as well as memories of the dead. You then control them as you beat the snot out of the fairies and snatch their souls from their bodies to utilize their powers as your own. Just as you can choose between two main characters each with their own intertwining stories, the world is split into two as well. From the peaceful, idyllic village of Doolin, where you chat and solve puzzles, to the Netherworld, where it's all action all the time. I got this thing for $5, and it was the best money I ever spent. Number 1. Tears to Tiara 2. While I'm not exactly thrilled by visual novels myself, I know that many of you out there just love them, and this one definitely delivers. Similar to 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, this is a visual novel meets strategy RPG, but I feel like it's done so much better here. There's no choose your own adventure part or rewatching the same scenes a million times to unlock another branch in the story, and the combat isn't real time either. The game tells a very straightforward story that focuses on the basics: love, betrayal, and war, not high school crap, and the strategy is turn-based as well. It does take quite a bit of time to get going, but if you do get invested in the story, you're in for a good time. The only thing that I can really knock here are the mobile-looking graphics and the lack of dual audio, but if you can look past that, you're going to have a game that you can sink hundreds of hours into. Well, that's it for the top 10 best PS3 hidden gems. If you like this video and what I do here on the channel, please consider supporting me over on Patreon for some exclusive videos and early access to my content, heading on over to Twitch for some streaming fun, or coming over to the Discord to chat and hang out. The links to them can be found in the video description. This has been David. If you like this, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.